Welcome back to the Guardian One podcast on the Guardian One network, part of the Guardian Radio Network, now with more bunny.
More bunny. I need more bunny. Like
All
the
right, so
cowbell.
the conversation that we are having right now was brought to me by Seer Prophet, and he was saying that he was interested in discussing new mechanics for the new raid, which we haven't touched on. And he was also talking about a coin system for when you beat the raid, you're earning coins to buy something. That way you know you're making progress every time you do the raid. So what do you think about that, Bell? Is that something that would interest you? And do you think that Bungie would implement it, like they could implement it in a way that wasn't wasteful, like Crimson Warlock was saying, that maybe at some point you wouldn't be interested in anything that the Vault of Glass has to offer, and therefore those would be worthless to you. And although I think that you could simply delete those, it might not be as simple for some reason. So
Okay,
what do you
wait,
think
what am I
about that?
doing with the coins?
It's kind of like when you beat the raid, you get this coin that you could use to purchase maybe at some point a piece of raid gear. Like you're looking for some gloves and you've run it 10 times and you haven't gotten any gloves.
Okay.
At the end of that 10 times, maybe you could take those 10 coins and just put it onto towards the purchase of that. What
I
do you
like
think
that
about that?
idea. I think I like that. I don't think they'd ever do it. Maybe they would. I mean, because like what they added in with the Iron Banner, with the whole if you didn't quit, you get a medallion kind of thing. It'd be kind of similar to that. And I
Exactly.
think I think you should get something for it, because like if you keep running the raid and you put in all the effort to do that and getting a group together and you go all the way through it and beat it and you get the same shader every single time and that's all you get, like there's got to be a line drawn somewhere, like you deserve something more than the same role every single time you do it. And so I think that would be a really cool way to do that, is it still showed that you put in the effort 10 times or whatever, so in a way you still earned it. You probably more than earned it at that point.
Yeah.
Because somebody could run it once and get everything they need and then you still haven't. So I don't know if they'd ever do it or not, but if they did, I'd support it.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoy talking about things that are beyond the realm of possibility, just because I feel like Destiny is going to be the game that doesn't hold itself back with restrictions, but flourishes with the restrictions that it keeps. Like similar to not being able to trade. I absolutely understand the both personally, like when you have a weapon or a piece of gear, you absolutely earned that. Or, you could have handed your controller to somebody else and have had them got that for you. But there's not that I think that this person is cheating or that they purchased that. Although I think that I would definitely spend $5 on Thunderlord. Like if they were doing microtransactions, I think that $5 I could definitely spend on an exotic. Uh, but yeah, I think that they're not going to put trading in for a long time, mostly because of the black market that would come up underneath it. Like
Mm-hmm.
people who farm mythoclasts, like those people could sell that $50, $100 on eBay, no
Right.
problem. And so with having no trading system, you have so little of that, that it's I don't know that they'll ever put trading in, because that just handles
There'd be
that
so much
problem.
regulation they'd have to put into it that I don't even know if it'd be worth it in the end for them to do it.
Totally.
Like, if they could find a way to make it work and regulate it really well, and there'd have to be some really strict rules for me to be totally okay with it, but otherwise, I don't know.
Right. All right, so why don't we move on to this other part of his question, and then we'll move on to the news. So new raid mechanics. I tell you what, I want to see much more of these, like of the jumping puzzle. Like that
Mm-hmm.
to me was, I don't know. It's probably the most exciting part for me, because it highlights the mobility. like the gap that you jump. I can jump that on the Warlock. I can jump that with the Titan. I got really nowhere near as close as I needed to with the Hunter, but
Of course.
but then when I went through the raid with the Hunter and I was forced to interact with those blocks, it was really fun.
Hmm.
It's a part
I
of
still have
the
to do it the real way. I always just do the last two blocks. I
yeah.
still haven't done it all the way across, and I really need to get myself to do it because I want to experience it the way it was supposed to be done.
It's fun. It's really fun. I think that they put that there exactly that distance so you could just
Right.
bypass that.
Right.
And what's funny is I found it the very first time that I went through the vault. Like I looked down on the side. I said, well, maybe there's another way across, and I thought maybe I can jump this, and I totally did, and it was awesome. It felt really good to make that. What's that?
I fully agree. I think it'd be awesome if I'd be good with if the next raid is like 90% puzzle based and like 10% actual combat. Like I think that'd be awesome.
Right. So, in addition to that, I'd also like to see like a sparrow portion, like some portion where you couldn't fight your way through; you had to just zip. Like I think that would be
Yeah.
really cool too. Warlock, what do you think about that? What do you think about like new raid mechanics? Is there something that you'd want to see, or something that you'd want to see more of?
I would like to see almost like a red light, green light type puzzle or encounter
Awesome.
where you have to stand in a specific spot to deal damage to the boss, and if you don't, you heal him. Like if you're on a red tile, you're healing him when you're shooting him. If you're on a green tile, you're hurting him. Just something like that that would kind of mix up the raid, but make you have to be mobile during the whole fight. I mean, Atheon's fun and all, but just sitting underneath a shield and shooting at him, doesn't make it too fun. And depending on how you do Templar, you're either really mobile or you're not mobile at all. So just
Totally.
something that would force you to be more aware of what's going on and move around.
I think
Like
they might do that. Sorry.
yeah, there was a Reddit post today about someone who got a quote from a dev that said that Crota isn't just a knight, but that's one of his many forms. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that boss fight evolves as you get further into it.
Right, I was curious about that as well. Like we know about Crota's sword, and I kind of imagine Crota being a really big, huge, giant monster. But if that was the case, then that sword would be like a toothpick. Why would a giant be fighting with a toothpick? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But to hear that there's like that's just one of his forms, like I hadn't even heard that. That's super exciting. And actually, Warlock, you brought up something that I had been thinking about for a couple of days and wanted to make sure I brought up on the show was what about reverse burns? And that's exactly what you were talking about with, you give him life if you hit him from a certain spot. But I was thinking, what if there was enemies who could, like, instead of the hobgoblins going into their invincible shield form, their armor lock, if you will, what if that in addition meant that you keep shooting them and you just keep giving them life? So I think that would be a very cool thing to say. Um, Jez, what do you think? Is there something that you think will be present in the next raid, or something you want to see more of or less of?
Um, yeah, more non-combat events would be like nice because it's always a breather to not have to sit there hold down the trigger button for the next half an hour. But like, there just needs to be uh, more things that require communication, like something that separates everyone into their own room or something, where
Oh,
they
that'd
have
be
to
awesome.
deal with whatever's in the room, if there's anything at all. So like, you get into a room and you could be safe, or you might get stuck with a room full of trolls.
Oh
So
Maybe there's
man,
like a
that is
timing
cool.
aspect to it. Like you have to did you guys ever play in Portal 2? Did you guys ever play like the multiplayer part where in order to get through certain areas, you have to work everything together timed out perfectly. Like that'd be really cool if you had like 6 different rooms and 6 different things that you had to time out exactly in order to open something or complete something.
Yeah, like what could happen is they could send one of your raid members into a room full of thralls that like endlessly spawn, and the rest of the raid team has to shoot the door out. That
Yeah,
way,
that'd be
that
cool.
way, you actually have some sort of like that would be quite a horror mechanic, really. Cause
Man, you
you'd
know
be
what
like
else would be
so
crazy?
scared.
What if you were separated into twos, and each of those twos was in a room by itself, but they were facing each other, and you couldn't kill the monsters that were in your room. You could only kill the monsters that were in the other person's room. So you had to shoot from those other people. You have to protect those other people so those other people can protect you. That
It's so
sounds
brutal.
cool.
You
You're
know,
right.
Yeah.
if there was a raid that was like a temple from the Legend of Zelda with, push buttons and timers and
I'm
everything like
in.
that, like that would be a raid right there.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm way in. And like, what if you have to activate them at a certain time, and you have to let the next person know that you activated, so that they
Yeah.
can know, but you can't see each other. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's the type of mechanics that I think a raid needs for this, because you with the double jump and you're plenty mobile, so there's plenty of jumping puzzles or other things they could do that, as long as you're coordinated, would be fun. Have some difficulty, but more fun than difficult. As long as you can get your coordination down with your team, it should be fun instead of the jumping puzzle where if one person just can't get it down, you're sitting there for like 20 minutes, half an hour waiting for that person sometimes to just get it down finally. But that's not
And they
fun
get
when you're
so
all just sitting
frustrated too
there.
because they feel like they're holding a team back or something, and then it just kind of goes downhill, Like I think with this raid, there's a lot of ways to get frustrated, just because like the Templar part too. It feels like it confuses me why that part is like the hardest and longest part of the entire raid instead of the final boss, and I feel like people get really stuck on certain aspects of it, and it does, like you're saying, I think it becomes less fun. And there's no real way to help people either. Like I like the point you're making with, make it more of a team effort kind of thing, like where you have to work together to do it instead of just, oh look, everybody made it across except for me. Make it so that's not the scenario that could ever really happen.
Interesting. That would be so. I'm looking at the curve that they have going on, and there's some people who are just way more able in these games, and I feel like if they make it too easy, then they just open the floodgates. There shouldn't even be a reason why are you even putting this obstacle in people's way. And I feel like the raid really represents a watermark. Like I'm my dad just reached 29, and so I'm excited to take him into these raids, but after watching him not be able to make it to the Templar, like he couldn't make it down the side of that hill because he's not yet been introduced to the idea of just hurtling himself towards the ground and then hitting the jump button to activate your added mobility at the bottom. So it's going to be an interesting learning curve for this people, like it's I don't know, where is the line between difficulty and just letting everybody through, it being a ride at Disneyland.
Right. I mean, I think you can have difficult and have it still be fun. Like I think there's a way to balance those. I don't know what it is, but I believe there's a way.
You play chicken with gorgons. That's what's fun.
There we go.
I really enjoyed the Gorgon section, and I actually really enjoy the whole raid. Like every section of it, I feel like is really cool and is really fun. But I want to be able to go exploring. Like I want to be able to just go in and jump around for a while and maybe sneak past those Gorgons on my own and explore. Maybe live down there for a while. Make them trust me so I can become part of their pack. I want to spend time in there, but I
He
feel
wants
like
to be a Gorgon.
well, I just want to move among them so I can understand them and their ways. But I feel like I would just be holding people up by the time you get to the Gorgons. Everyone's like, all right, let's run through. And then sometimes you can't even do that. So because it's not a guaranteed to make it through, I don't want to start playing around with that. But
Right.
I don't know.
Wouldn't it be cool if you complete the raid once on a certain level, that as long as within that same week you went back in, that you could just go explore?
That would
Like,
be
as long as you've
cool.
completed it, it opens up as kind of like a sandbox for you to go do whatever in.
Bungie, are you listening? Because this is what I want. After you beat the raid, I want to be able to walk through it with all of those people disappeared. I want to explore. I want to go. I want to go in there, and I
'Cause
realized.
I went into the Templar part the other day. Like, I got in there, and there's no enemies in there at that time, and it was really cool because I got up to. I'm gonna take a video of it at some point, but you can, if you keep jumping up right in the area where he hangs out during the first section of it, you can jump like way up, and there's little passages and stuff up there that you can tell might have supposed to been something eventually,
Totally.
maybe,
Totally.
and like that was so cool, and I want to do that with the rest of it,
Yeah, I really want to continue to explore those blocks right above that. Like there are little ledges where you can jump up to. So Agrios, let's wrap this up with you. I did like both of your ideas, Jez and Warlock, and also yours, Bell. Agrios, what is it that you think that could be in this next raid, or that you want to see in this next raid, or that you want to see more of or less of?
We put him to sleep.
It's too late for him.
We talked too long.
Agrios, are you there? Because we can't hear you if you are.
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
good.
that's the show, everybody.
Right? Go play some Destiny. All right, on. Well, then we're kind of screwed because the next part was him reading some stuff. Oh, all right. So he says in some text that he is here, but we do not hear him.
Could be
Break
where
that too.
he's on the phone. He might have muted it, not know how to unmute or something. I don't know.
Right. Jez, you were saying something when the broadcast broke up about how you wanted a fourth class, and I didn't want to really probe that idea right that second because I wanted to be able to talk about it on the show, and I'm very curious about what you have to say because you've spent a lot of time with that Warlock, yeah, or no?
I've spent a fair amount, probably not as much as the Titan and the Hunter that I played, but it just seems like there needs to be more of a, like the Warlock feels more like a mage, because all it does is you're blowing things up with fire, or you're throwing a big Nova Bomb, which could basically be any type of like fireball or something. But what I would like to see is more of a like, think of Thorn, how it slowly drains your life away, like something that could do more of that type of damage, where it's more, I don't want to say passive, but it's happening more often, but it's not this big flashy spell, because that feels very magey to me.
I like that. So you're talking about indirect damage and things like this. So maybe like what about like buffs, additional buffs? Would this be something that you'd be interested in too? Like maybe turning to one of your fire team and then activating something in his direction, and then that being something. Is that also in your line of what you're thinking?
Well, like a super that you could activate, and say your grenade damage would make the boss more susceptible to damage, or something that if you activate it, everyone that's in the area gets weapons that will steal health back like Suros or something.
It is kind of interesting that the only class that currently has like a, I guess, more like a defensive or like assistant kind of super is the Titan class, because everybody else has, it's all like, I mean, I guess technically warlocks can bring themselves back, but you know what I mean? Like, especially hunters, both of ours are offensive supers. And like, so that, like, we
Warlock
don't
only has
assist anybody with them, you know?
Warlock only has one ability that affects other people too.
And that's
Right.
cooling down their.
Yeah.
That's speeding up their cooldown when they're in the. When they hit their special, and I think that that's pretty cool. Although I haven't seen it, has anybody felt the effects of that? Because I imagine that once a warlock gets up past that option, they stop using that. But I
imagine everybody having radiance for all of their cooldowns. Like that's
and that's how
fast
that
it
works.
is.
Oh
It's
wow!
awesome.
The only problem is that most things have you spread out so that only one or two people would get that buff. Because
Yeah.
it's
The only
not
time I've
that
ever
far.
noticed it is in the raid when somebody may or may not cheese the Templar, and people may or may not use it then.
Right? That seems like the perfect time. I wonder if it stacks.
You don't know.
You have to stagger it. Not that I know or anything, but you should stagger it.
That's
Right.
awesome.
What we
All
really
right.
need as a class is we need the tiger people.
Oh yeah,
Tiger
tiger
Man.
people.
Am I here now?
You are here
Yes.
now. Welcome back.
Hi.
Coming to a Destiny expansion, House of Cats.
House of Cats. I like it.
So Agrios, let's wrap this subject up with you. What is it that you are thinking about new mechanics for the new raid? Is there anything that you'd really like to see in this new raid, or is this anything you'd like to see more of from this previous raid, or what are you thinking?
Well, you guys already touched on a whole slew of just great ideas. I think what I would add to that is I would like to see more of a drastic difference between the normal and the hard mode. And I think this also goes to alleviate the more complicated puzzles you say about people taking too long to learn to do. Whereas the normal mode, I would like to see actually, instead of just enemies developing to be stronger in hard mode, I'd like to actually see a change in the platforms that are appearing and disappearing entirely. Yeah. Whole sections of the raid with entirely different mechanics. Like maybe you get to a point where there are disappearing platforms in normal raid, and all of a sudden there's just no platforms, and you didn't even realize there's another way around this obstacle, but you have to find it now.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
All
Maybe
right.
like one of those old video game concepts where everything that you walk on disappears after you leave it, so you can't walk in the same place twice and have to find a way around.
Ooh, that sounds really cool. I like that a lot.
I think
You
it'd be
know,
cool
when
even
the
if, like,
video for the video for the jumping puzzle came out, I thought that's what that was. Was like that platform's there until the first person touches it, and then it's there for 2 seconds,
that's what
and
it
then it's
looked like.
gone.
That's
They
what
made it
I
look so
thought
much
too.
more intense than what it is. Like
I
they made it
first
look
thought
like you
Mega
had to
Man.
go as a group all the way across, or you wouldn't succeed.
Totally.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too.
So which one do you think would be harder? Which one do you think would be on the hard mode versus the... Because I could see that being a difference. I could way see that being a difference between... Which one do you think would be harder? And so what you're saying is these things just disappear forever? Like, it's there?
Yeah.
That's
Because of
exciting.
Jumping as a group would be way more difficult.
Well, it would also
Well, because
mean that
everybody has to do it at once.
every step would have to be taken with care, because if you get rid of something that someone else has no way to get to, they're basically, you gotta wipe.
And you have the
Especially in
difference in the
hard mode.
classes, and how they jump would affect how you do it too. You know, because
Oh,
the way
yeah.
that different classes land is different.
Interesting.
Major.
Right on. Well, why don't we get to some news with Agrios?
All right. This week in the news, we had a new major update come our way. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but first let's talk about the weekly heroic and nightfall. This week it's the Devil's Lair once again. The weekly comes with heroic and arc burn. So it's the second time now that we've had a burn on the weekly. And
Only the second time?
Well, unless it happened, honestly, in the first week or two. But I think I asked somebody before, and they told me it didn't, but I don't know whether or not. In recent memory, though, it was only one other time. I believe it was the last time the Devil's Lair came around, wasn't it?
It's a good question. I don't think I was doing that at that point.
That up.
I
It's the
think
second time
it was
recently.
on Nexus.
Right.
I think you're right. Because I think I remember going down to that Nexus and loading him up with 6 rockets in the first 30 seconds of the match and just taking him down.
The Nightfall comes with Epic, Angry, Light Switch, Arc Burn, and of course Nightfall this week. Zur, on his last visit to the tower, showed up in front of the large doorway that's never been opened across from the speaker. For the first time ever, he brought with him the Last Word, exotic hand cannon, along with the armamentarium, the Crest of the Alpha Lupi for the Hunter, and the Void Fang vestments for the Warlock. He also had the green Emerald Coil upgrade for the Sparrow and the purple Void Drive upgrade for the Sparrow. I definitely picked up the Last Word. Anybody else?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Yep. For
Hell
sure.
yeah. And I want
And
to
now Iron Banner is filled with it.
I want to give a sad shout out to Bife because I guess he had just gotten Last Word in some kind of drop, like just maybe 4 days before, or something like this. And then, I mean, yeah, sure, he saved himself 23 coins, but I don't know, just having everybody and their mom with 23 coins picking that up, like, I feel his pain. I feel his pain. But
Soon
yeah,
everybody will feel that with every exotic we have, because well, at least until PlayStation exclusives are sold by Zur, those are going to be pretty exclusive for a while.
oh, this is true. This is true. I read something, or I heard somewhere that the ownership rate of Suros Regime was like 50%. And I think that I really feel like it should be higher than that, you know?
There's just not that many smart people out there.
I guess not. Or at least not that many smart people with 23 coins, apparently.
This is the 1 week I didn't have the money or the coins for it, so I was upset.
That handful. That happened to me a couple times. I missed out on Patience in Time and Galahorn. And Red Death.
Yep.
Man, I'm really crossing my fingers for Icebreaker this week.
I
Really
think, okay, I don't know if you guys heard, but on Guardian Radio, I came up with a theory about how it seems to be whatever seems to be dropped most often, like suddenly during the week before, is what Zur ends up selling. And currently it's a tie between Universal Remote and Thunderlord, according to my poll. So
Interesting.
my guess is it's one of those. So
You
sorry.
know, I was discussing this with a couple of these guys earlier, and one of the ones that I keep hearing come up is the I can't believe I forgot his name, the Monte Carlo, but that can't be popping up because it's not on Xbox yet. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that your poll brought that up. I would love to buy Thunderlord. I would buy Thunderlord in an instant.
Me too.
What
It
is
might
Thunderlord?
only because Bife makes it sound awesome because he makes like thunder noises every time he uses it, but
It's very awesome. I like it a lot.
It's a weird gun that like feels like it's on ADD if you get it spun up enough.
What do you mean spun up enough?
Like, because the Thunderlord fires faster the longer you hold it down. Once you hold it down the entire way, it's like,
Oh,
It's just
awesome.
crazy.
yeah,
I
it's
just want to play with
wildly
it.
hard to play, hard to use.
He also has an
So,
interesting hidden ability that every so often, fairly frequently, they blow up like an arc grenade goes off.
That's awesome.
you trace around.
Jeez.
What is it? What is the element on it?
Arc.
Arc. Come on, Thunderlord.
Well, you know, I understand, but who knows? Who knows what they've decided to do?
Yeah, well, some of the other decisions are weird too. So
Right. Did you see that they removed "it is a Guardian killer" from the description text on the Red Death?
Very
I
interesting.
really want to know why.
it's because, and like, don't listen to this. It's bad.
know
full circle still.
somebody tweeted that to me. Somebody tweeted that to me after I took that picture and sent it out. They said, "Oh, well, maybe it's because it doesn't really kill guardians." But then without that sentence, the first part doesn't make sense. Like, why is the Vanguard policy to destroy it on sight so that noobs don't use it and then get, marked? So yeah. Continuing.
All right, so that's it with Zur. Into the update now. Along with the update, many Guardians found a special surprise in the post office. There was a EV30 tumbler for anyone who had already picked up the expansion pass through any of the means it was offered, whether it be digital or through one of the collector's editions or on its own. Bungie's own words: drive fast, take flight, blow your friends' minds with a set of show-stopping Sparrow tricks. The EV30 Tumbler features advanced modifications that bypass standard safety systems, disabling the stabilization and gyroscopic force dampeners designed to keep you grounded. It's also got a pretty sweet paint job. Bungie goes on to say that this new personal vehicle will be delivered on December 9th with the Destiny expansion 1, The Dark Below, but owners of the Destiny expansion pass can explore the wild in extreme style right now.
I like it.
Go ahead.
I had a really good time with my Tumbler. I'm really looking forward to Sparrow races. I'd like to just go down the line right now and see. Give me a 1 to 10 on if you think that they will implement it sometime in the future, and then 1 to 10 on how much you are interested in that at all. Belle.
I think they plan to, but I don't know if they'll ever get to it. And I would say a 10, and that's why I'm planning on starting some Sparrow racing soon.
Right?
I know I keep saying that, but it will happen.
Let me know what your progress is on that, because that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, is the idea of Sparrow racing, and so I've got a whole huge empire of background ready for when these things are implemented. So let me know how your testing goes.
I'm hoping to record the routes this weekend, maybe. Fingers crossed.
Awesome. Agrios, 1 to 10, how much you think they will be implementing it sometime in the future, and 1 to 10, how much you are interested in something like that, Sparrow Racing. Go.
I'm going to give it a 9 that they're going to implement it sometime in the future. They seem pretty eager to react to positive feedback on things that seem relatively easy to implement like that. I mean, that's where this Sparrow, I'm going to get into this a little bit with the weekly update, but that's kind of where this Sparrow came from in the first place, was them observing what the community was doing, what the community wanted, and responding to it. So I'm going to give that a 9. And as far as my desire for it, I'm going to give that a 10.
Awesome. Yeah, I really think that them adding another activity that's not shooting would be, it's time. I'm ready to do it. Jez, 1 to 10 on whether you think they will, 1 to 10 on your interest.
Probably I'm gonna cheat and go with a 5 on whether they're gonna do it relatively soon. Just because I think
He's
there's
choosing
other
the
things.
answer.
Yeah, I think there's other things that they probably should be working on. But if they do it, I think probably sometime after Dark Below, so probably January. I know I'm not supposed to really guess at when it's supposed to come out, but that's my guess. And,
Gotcha. And
probably closer to an 8 for my level of wanting to play it, but like I said before, I'm not sure how much I care depending on what the reasoning for doing it is. Like, there's probably nothing like cosmetic to gain from it, then I probably would be less interested in it.
gotcha. But you definitely give it a shot.
Oh yeah, I'd try it out at least.
Gotcha. Warlock, what about you? 1 to 10, are they going to do it either sometime in the future, in near future, or in the relative future? And 1 to 10 on your interest.
I'm going to go with probably a 6 for soon. I figure we probably won't see it till after the House of Wolves. That's my thought. This Sparrow's just the groundwork, and I mean, it kind of sounds like the way the update was stating it. It was, hey, look what I did, and then everyone's like, good, put it in the game. Like, it was kind of like one of those things that was brought up in a board meeting because someone had some spare time and they liked it, so they said put it in the game.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the groundwork, and there's a lot of polish that's going to come into it. Second off, I just want to say, since when has any Sparrow had gyroscopic stabilizers? Like, you touch a rock and you're flipped over. Like, that's just how it is.
Well, but imagine your life if you didn't have those stabilizers.
I guess that's true. I might hit the throttle and flip off of it. But as for my interest, honestly, it's about a 3. I could care less if there's races in there, but that's because I've never cared for racing. That's just me personally. I mean, I'd probably try it out, but I mean, unless it dropped like this super sweet exotic armor or gun, I probably wouldn't even touch it after I've tried each course once or twice. I don't think I would find much interest in it myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can go along with that. Me, myself, and I would make that my jam. I would love to race, and I can't wait to see courses, and I can't wait to see your courses, Belle, because it's probably going to be really good. You know, I'm willing to bet it's going to be really cool. But let us. Damn, there was something that you said, Warlock, that really sparked something I wanted to talk about. Oh no, it was TD the Jester in the chat says Sparrow Racing sounds awesome, but we have more important things to target first. And here's my thinking on that is that Bungie is made up of, you know, however many hundreds of people, and only so many of them can be working on one thing at a time. Like I doubt very, very much that the entire team turns its whole attention to one thing. So on this front, like, I feel like it's going to be an interesting dance for Bungie to say, well, yeah, sure, we haven't fixed the raid and the bugs, but here is this whole other thing that we've been working on. You know, like, a lot of people are going to be pissed off that they haven't stopped that Minotaur or the Praetorian from regenerating its health, if that is a bug. But I feel like I understand what you're saying, TD, and it's totally valid, but I think that just the size of the team and the different things that people are working on, I think that if they can implement it, I am super, super excited. So continuing.
Continuing.
I
was waiting for you to continue and say something else after that, like continuing on that topic. So yeah. Along with the update, there's a whole list of changes that came. One of the main changes was the new voice. Now players can go into their navigator, and call up their ghost, and opt to speak with their match-made guardians in Strikes as well as the Crucible. Have you guys been making good use of this?
I haven't been able to get it to work because nobody's using it. Like, I'll switch, but nobody's talking, so it doesn't matter. I just talked to myself.
I haven't jumped in either.
Yeah, I haven't used it at all either. Like, I think it could be useful, but I don't know. I wasn't really in a position to use my headset anyways, so I haven't. So it's not been something that I've been absolutely ready to try. What about you, Warlock? Is this something you've tried?
I have not. I've had so little time to play since the patch come out. Like, I haven't tried it. I might try it in the future, like just in the tower or something. But nope, haven't tried it yet. So don't know what it's like. Interesting.
And you, Jez, you've already got a friends list full of people who are ready to play with you. You probably have zero use for something like this, yeah?
Yeah, I don't have my headset even connected to my console.
Right. That's right. You said that
last from my computer.
Totally. You said that last week. So yeah. Moving on, Agrios.
Moving on.
I'm sorry.
They made a number of changes to classes. They fixed an issue in which two players who performed a melee lunge simultaneously would teleport through each other. They also fixed an issue in which blink strike damage would be caused by colliding with the blink strike rather than the melee impact from it. They also fixed an issue in which warlock bonds dismantled into Titan materials. Next, that was the oddest thing when it first happened. I totally did a double take when it first happened to me. I'm like, did that really just happen? And went into my inventory to have to check. But sure enough, that actually happened to me in beta the first time.
Did they leave that after they patched this? Did they just leave it as plasteel, or you just effed?
Well, the plasteel I got from the ones I broke down remained plasteel. I imagine I burnt it a long time ago when I transferred it to my Titan. But now when you break them down, they break down correctly, I guess.
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about what if in the future there are upgrades on certain Titan outfits, or you pick your class of choice, and you need elements from like the Warlock or the Hunter. What if you need that sapphire wire in addition to plasteel to upgrade your Titan gear? Like I think that would really screw a lot of people who are running not 3 different characters.
Oh no, don't say that. Because I'm one of those people. I got a level 3 warlock and my 30 hunter, and that's all I got. So Bungie, don't listen to that one.
And that would just add a level of exoticness to it. Like it would just get that much more exotic. Continuing.
An interesting thing on that one aspect, as far as the people running all of the same class, is that in order to complete their grimoire, they're still going to have to get the exotics from all of the other classes at some point in order to complete their grimoire if they're trying to be a completionist. So there's interesting things like that they do to try to pull you into it. I'd like to see more things like trophies and whatnot for specific tasks performed by specific classes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Next in the update, they touch on weapons. They reduced camera shake while being hit with explosive rounds. Clown cartridge, they actually have eliminated. They replaced clown cartridge perk with other perks in the shotgun upgrade trees. Head Seeker is another perk that had a change. They fixed an issue with the bonus precision damage. It did not always apply. The Head Seeker is the one where landing body shots increases damage on a headshot.
Gotcha.
Did anybody have a shotgun with clown cartridge on it in their inventory and note what it was replaced with?
No, I don't really use shotguns very much, and I definitely haven't seen that. I think it's interesting that they can just do that. They can just decide, all right, well, all of these shotguns can't have this clown cartridge anymore, and they can, change one thing, and now it's there. So
I think it's interesting. I'm wondering if it was like their kind of sneaky way of continuing to nerf the shotguns, because they didn't change, because clown cartridge still exists on other other guns, but just not the shotguns that had it.
Crazy.
Do you think it was changed because it was being abused in some way, shape, or form?
Not necessarily abused. I'm just wondering if that was like, instead of them releasing an actual like another direct nerf on shotguns, I think that there are certain shotguns that still seem a little OP, so I don't get in trouble here. But so I'm wondering if it was just Bungie's way of saying, oh hey, instead of releasing a whole full nerf on them, we're just going to be a little more sneaky and be like, we'll get rid of this perk that seems to make them a little too strong sometimes. Well, otherwise, why not get rid of clown cartridge in general? Like for all guns.
If I'm not mistaken, every time you load your gun, clown cartridge has a chance of adding an extra ammo to the magazine? Is that what it was?
Is that the one? I think so.
So I guess the fact that you reload the shotgun one shell at a time would cause the clown cartridge to potentially pop every single time you put the shell in. So essentially you could literally double the magazine instead of only adding one to it. If I understood that.
I've got a friend. He has a rocket launcher with clown cartridge. and he's gotten 14 shots out of a magazine that's only has 3
Jeez.
because it just
It just
procs
reloads
like
after
every
every
single
shot,
time.
yeah. Gotcha.
I know my husband found a little glitch kind of thing where I don't remember which weapon it was, but he had where you can have a perk that gives you like twice as much ammo in your cartridge, and but he found that if you like normally when you would switch between like turn that perk off or turn it on, right, you would lose that ammo. It would go back down to like let's say 50 instead of 100. But if you do it when you've just filled your weapon, it actually keeps the 100 rounds even if you turn the perk off. So little cheat sheet
Right.
there.
The Field Scout. I've done something similar to.
I think you broke up there, Agrios. What was that?
Hello?
I think you broke up for a second.
Oh, okay. I said, was that the Field Scout perk you were talking about there? Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was it Field Scout perk. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that
it. It was on one of the machine guns.
Next, they touched on some activities. In the buried city, they fixed an exploit on Mars that would clear all enemies from Clovis Bray. In the Winter's Run, they fixed an exploit zone in the Axor boss encounter. Yeah, Axor. But apparently, you can still get under that porch there, just through a different entrance than they actually.
Yeah, the back.
Right. So, do you think that an invisible wall will shortly appear at the back entrance as well?
I don't think so because like when I watch somebody do it, one there's almost no way to get back out of it. So if you need to go revive somebody that's outside or you need to go get ammo, you really can't. So I think people are going to use it way less than they use the other one because the other one was super convenient. You just walk up to it and crouch and go in, you know. But
Right. But you don't really need ammo. I mean, you could take everybody out with an icebreaker and.
well, yeah, if you have one, but not everybody
Right.
has one.
Correct.
Not everybody's as cool, you know.
You know, part of me feels like, yeah, they will patch it because they patched the front of it, but really at the same time, getting into the back is not as easy as getting into the front was. I did it just to see because I had heard that somebody did get in, and also the first time I crawled under there, Sharks was like, "Oh, hey man, you know, you don't worry about falling out the back. You can't do it." And I don't know why I even tried, but I did try. And I got caught out there, and then I died. But yeah, I it was even on my hunter, and I'm not very proficient with the jump on the hunter, but I made it back there and made it under, and it was cool to have done it by going in through that weird hole. But I think if they want to keep people out of there, they're gonna have to do better than that, because as soon as you land on that rock that you walk up to it, it says turn back now, but as soon as your body is all the way up against those bars, it stops telling you this. So you can still do it. It's still a viable route, and if you get 2 people back there, where you can revive each other, you can still make it through the hardest content. I'm curious to see if they nerf the one in Cerberus Vi, you know, because that seems like an even bigger room to fort from. You know, does anybody know if that one's already been patched?
Which one are we talking about? Like, where do you hide?
Under the stairs in the boss encounter.
There's like boxes to the left of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they...
You know,
As far as I
that
think,
fight,
they
they just need to like reduce his health or something,
Mm-hmm.
because it just takes way too long. And even
It
from that
does.
cheese spot, he can kill you super easily anyway. Like, his rockets can go through slits that normal rockets shouldn't be able to. But yeah. Anyway, like, I'm sure they'll nerf it eventually, but I would hope that they would reduce his health and his damage before they
Or
nerf
even
that
just
spot.
give better coverage somewhere else, because no matter where you are on that map, I swear there's going to be an enemy coming from behind you, and usually it's swarms of them, you know? So if there's nowhere Like, that's one of the only reasons I was okay with kind of choosing that one from there, is because I don't know where else to go when it's on a more difficult setting, you know? Like,
Yeah, either you're getting shot by rockets or you're getting shot by a scion that
right.
is there.
There's a decent little niche up high on the cliff near where you come into the match at, but everywhere else is pretty vulnerable. You either have to run around nonstop or be in one of those tiny niches.
Right.
Other changes they made to activity involve the scaling of the difficulty when there are different numbers of players in fire teams on strikes. They touched more on that in the weekly update, which we'll get to shortly. They also fixed an issue in which engrams earned during the daily and weekly heroic activities were not displayed in the post-game carnage report. And that brings me to something interesting I wanted to touch on that happened to us earlier this week. Remy and myself and our friend Sharks 3D Man over in chat, we were all doing the weekly strike right at changeover time for the weekly changeover time. And Remy had started it. He hadn't got the weekly in one of his characters yet, and he started doing it. And at some point, Sharks got booted, and I hadn't joined yet. And then Sharks and I both joined, but it was after the changeover time. When the strike had finished, interestingly enough, Remy didn't get an award. And Shark and I both got our awards for this week's strike, even though we had beat last week's strike with Remy.
So it, like, glitched because he was in during the crossover and you guys weren't?
Yeah,
Right,
like
That sucks.
So we joined after the crossover, and then it marked it off on my map and everything, gave me 9 strange coins and 3 blue engrams. But Remy didn't get anything because he had started it and never left after the time and came back.
Oh.
I did actually. I did get my coins.
Oh, you did? I thought
Yeah.
you didn't get anything.
No, it didn't mark it off for me. I can still do that. I can still do that weekly. To this
but
time,
you did get your coins from last week?
I did get my coins from last week.
Oh, so he got his coins from last week, even though it was after the time, but
Yeah.
didn't get them this week. That's what happened. Okay, I
Yeah.
got that a little mixed up.
Yeah,
But
so I need to run
Okay.
that one again. FYI.
Sharks and I had already completed it for the week before. We were just in there helping him try to finish it off.
Totally.
But it was an interesting, odd glitch we didn't really expect to happen. The next thing in the update they talked about was the Iron Banner. Players must now be level 20 and above to lead an Iron Banner fire team. Players below level 20 can only accompany players above level 20. Lord Saladin now has 5 reputation ranks, increased from 3. New features they added were the tempered buff and reforging. And they touched a little more on this in the weekly update, asking if power does matter. And they provided a graph to show how damage changes based on level. Have you guys felt the difference in the current Iron Banner? I mean, the current incarnation as opposed to the last time it was around?
Yeah, I didn't play it the first time it showed up. I didn't feel like the rewards didn't draw me out of my shell. You know, I really like the Titan mark. I really like the Hunter's Cloak. I think that they look really cool. Like even the Warlock's bond now looks really sweet, but it just wasn't enough for me. And then now they're offering, level 30 gear. That's crazy. I know that you were excited about that, Agrios. How close are you to picking up that level 30 gear you need?
Well, I didn't play as much as I would have liked to the past 2 days, but I am just probably an eighth of a reputation bar around away from hitting level 3 on my Warlock, and I'm partway through level 2 on my Titan. Those are the only 2 I'm trying to level up. My goal is to hit 4 on both of those before the week's out.
And that's when you can purchase the materials you need?
Right. You can get the boots at level 3 reputation, and you can get the gauntlets at level 4, as well as the fusion rifle. And then the scout rifle is the reward for level 5, as well as the second shader.
Gotcha.
I was fortunate enough to pull the chest piece on my first raid, the only raid I've ever run with my Titan. So after I get the boots and gauntlets in combination with my exotic helmet, my Titan's going to hit 30 after only one raid and only being in existence for about 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
My Warlock, however, which I played everything I've ever done on Destiny on, still is not going to be 30 even after getting both of those pieces from the Iron Banner.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy because I've already got two pieces of raid gear for my Warlock, which I've only run through the raid twice.
Well, for some reason from the Templar, on my Warlock, now not my Titan. My Titan, my first time ever, I got something completely different. I got completely different rewards the whole way through. But on my Warlock, for some reason, I seem to get the exact same rewards over and over again every single raid. And I've talked to other people before. It feels like that one of their characters sometimes gets stuck in a reward loop. And a lot of it has to do with found verdict. Every one of them I've talked to says they have gotten 8 found verdicts, and on that one character, they keep getting found verdict and the same rewards from everything. It's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
My Warlock's like that. I mean, granted, I am level 30. I finally did get gear on my Warlock, but for about 3 weeks, that's all I got was the found verdict and 12 shards and 3 energy.
Yep, that's my Warlock kept getting every single week too, and I found it it was actually strangely noticeable how different just the way the rewards came down from my Titan in the raid. Like it just nothing seemed the same. I don't know.
Alrighty, so let's wrap it up. This is we're reaching the end of our show. Why don't you run down what you have left?
Okay, well, there's a whole slew of other fixes to the game, mainly involving lots of little details throughout Destiny. Many of them adding lots of nice little bits of polish, such as the new icons that have been presented, as well as there's new timers for your grenades and for your melee. There's a whole slew of those fixes to just improve the general play quality of life, if you will, in Destiny. In the weekly update, they talked a little bit about unintentional nerfs to some of weapons, mainly Thorn. They said reports of other nerfs greatly over-exaggerated, and the Thorn was accidental, and it will return to its former glory and then some, in their words. They also say that we're about to give you more reasons to covet all of the exotics in your Grimoire deck. With the last update behind us, we can start to telegraph the next. Exotics are about to come off the workbench. We'll be shuffling the cards before the Dark Below launches, just in time for fresh targets. We know you've been watching and asking while we know you've been waiting and asking while we've been working. The last thing they talk about are the strikes and how the strike size affects the damage scaling in the strikes. They say, since launch, we've noticed that for some players, a partner was the last thing they wanted on a strike. People were kicking their friends out of parties for better chances of surviving. This is what Jimmy Sai had to say about our approach to strikes over the long term and from the beginning. We were looking over the data from strikes and found that some unintentional damage scaling was occurring based on team size. The larger the fire team, the more damage an enemy shot would inflict upon its members. We made a couple of changes. First, we tuned the damage to be a little easier overall so that we'd see higher survival rates in 3-player fire teams. Then we normalized these damage values across all group sizes so that players wouldn't feel that additional guardians joining their strike made things harder. Players can now be certain that people joining their team are helping their progress, not hindering it. The side effect of this change is that playing strike solo has indeed become a little harder. We acknowledge that this is undesirable for many players, and we are considering different ways to solve these problems. Have you guys experienced changes as far as people joining and leaving your strikes? Mainly, I suppose the easiest way to experience that's through the weekly or the nightfall, where you can choose to go without a fire team. But even if people leave the strikes that you're playing otherwise, have you noticed a major difference in your gameplay?
You know, when at some point somebody was talking about you cannot play Destiny by yourself. Like you can't do it. and I wanted to respectfully disagree because I had only been playing Destiny by myself up until that point, and I could see how that would be a real pain. But once I started seeing that certain people were on at certain times, and then I started playing with those certain people, namely Agrios and Sharks 3D Man, I I just stopped playing them by myself. I would do it if there wasn't anyone on, but I just am lucky enough to have other people to do it. I don't want the stress of, you know, this hour I've taken on the Nightfall is just thrown all away because I died. Like when I could just have one of you guys cruise along. Even if you just hung back and let me kill everything, or vice versa, it would just be it would just be better that way. Like, I understand what he's saying, but I think that it should be amended to, you shouldn't play Destiny by yourself, because it's the playing with other people is just so much nicer. I mean, it takes a lot away from the experience in my head, because I played Destiny for so long by myself. It was a very solemn tale, like going through the story missions and then doing public events. If I felt really alone, I felt like I was one against this huge number, and then when I'm playing with other people, it's just such a more enjoyable experience. So I don't really think that I'm interested in soloing much anymore. I mean, I could just hang out with some friends and have a good time. Let's ask Jez. I would say that Jez probably has the most amount of friends out of all of us that are just ready to play Destiny at any one time. Jez, do you ever solo anything? Or do you hop on and you just don't even have a chance because everyone's like, oh, thank goodness it's Jez. He will help us. Like, is there a time when you play by yourself? Or is it always and has always been, boom, just multiplayer all the time?
Well, it's I can't say that I have friends all the time, because the way that like hardcore guilds tend to work is they'll be so focused on content and then drop off so they don't like burn themselves out. Like right now, half the guild seems to be playing World of Warcraft, but as soon as it gets like a week before the Dark Below comes out, everyone will be back on Destiny. So it's not so much that I have people ready to always play, because people are still being people and playing random things, whatever they want to play.
Gotcha. So does that sometimes influence your play? Like, do you see your friends all playing something else, and then you think, I'm going to go play that game with them? Like, does that sway you in that direction?
I may or may not have a level 100 in WoW right now, but that's besides the point.
Awesome. I'd really like to play that, but it seems really in depth, and I don't have time for that. I'll stick with Destiny. Thank you very much.
Actually, if you play it now and buy the expansion, you start at 90, so you're only 10 levels away from the max.
You start at 90?
Yeah, for one character.
What? How? What the?
They gave this latest expansion, because you know how grinding through 90 levels to meet up with your friends is pretty bad. They gave a character boost so that whatever character you want can boost straight to level 90.
You know what? I kind of feel like that's what they're doing with this Dark Below, but before that, with this Iron Banner and this level 30 gear. Like, I feel like they're like, you can just straight grind Iron Banner and win, lose, or draw, come up with, that level 4 that you need to pick up those pieces of gear. Like, I feel like they're handing it out to anybody who wants to get there right now. Like, I know that it's probably an insane grind, and I don't even want to think about that. But it's there. It's there right in front of you right now.
This would have been the perfect time to roll out the Queen's quests, because it would. That's those types of. I was going to call them epics. Those types of legendaries are in the game to get people caught up, because the one thing that people, like game designers, don't like is the fact that in WoW's case, if no one completed the first raid, then no one would get to complete the second raid. So if only 10% complete the first raid, that means 90% of their player base can't see their new content.
Totally.
See, that's interesting to me too, though, because like, I mean, I don't know how accurate it was, but when the content got released, or leaked, uh, like when they had the map that showed all of the new DLC locations and stuff that we weren't supposed to see. And when they showed the raid, I think it showed that it was only a level 28. So it's interesting to me if they don't change that, why they would want everybody to be like a level 30 before the DLC releases. Because wouldn't we all be like over leveled then?
The level for um, Vault of Glass is 26,
Right.
and
But
the only people that really went in at like 25 were people like us, or people that were, I don't want to say carried through, but like they weren't as struggling. They didn't need to struggle. Like
right, but when it
you
first
still
came
see,
out, most people weren't that high of level. Like when we first were raiding, when there was the whole try to be world first, there were very few people who were over 26. People were struggling just to get to 26 to do it. And I feel like if we're all level 30s and the new raid is a 28, aren't we all going to be like the average person has at least a character that's over 28 now, I would guess. You know?
Yeah.
depending on luck.
Well, I
Well, no,
suppose.
but it can get
But
28 with
like
luck.
Yeah,
Well, you can get to 29 with,
No luck.
yeah.
yeah. Well, you still need some luck. 'Cause you might not
No,
ever
you don't
get.
need any luck.
But I mean, like with the Iron Banner now having, level 30 gear that you can get too. Like it does feel like they're kind of pushing for everybody to get to a certain level as quickly as possible right now. And I'm just kind of
Right.
curious as to why, especially if the raid is going to be a 28 instead. Unless it's because your level isn't going to matter as much, because maybe less of it's going to be combat based. So whatever level you are doesn't affect how well you'll do. If that makes
Interesting.
sense. I
I
don't know.
also think that it's going to involve their new quest structure, and I think that getting into the raid is going to involve something more than just qualifying as a level.
Yeah,
That you're
that'd be
going to
cool.
have to assemble something or gather certain pieces, almost like a raid key.
I like that.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. What else you got, Agrios?
Well, that was most of the weekly update right there. There's something else we should probably mention is that we were mentioning the leaks before where we saw a couple of the levels and things that were going to come. Today there was a leak where due to an error in the game, the introduction trailer for the Crocia's End Raid and the DLC was released into the public. Have any of you guys been able to take a look at that?
It's amazing. It made
I
me
would
want it
say
right now.
it's much more relevant than the launch trailer was.
Yeah.
But definitely not as classic. I will say that.
I love how
I
Interesting.
dark
definitely
it
hope
was.
there's a lot more cinematics like this in the game. I thought that was something missing from the first one. I definitely felt like at different times beating different bosses, I would have loved for a cinematic to happen to see something a little bit more add to the story, add to the accomplishment of taking that boss down.
Like how beautiful the opening scene is in this game, and yet it's the only one you can skip, right? And it's gorgeous and it's long and there's actual like feeling behind it sort of, and you can skip it, and then everything else just kind of felt like subpar compared to that throughout the rest of it. And like I know they have gorgeous work, and so yeah, I hope they give us more like what we just saw in this sort of trailer.
Well, and I kind of hope there's like a cinematic for beating the raid too. Like,
Yes.
I mean, they're building up this story. I hope there's like a conclusion and cinematic when you beat
Instead
the
of a
raid, and there's
oh
an
you can't even
actual
go instead of
yeah,
like a
an
there's no
actual
carnage report, sorry.
yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Just one of those reports, like that'd just be nice, or maybe something that actually rewards you raid gear because that's what it says is the reward is. So.
Right.
I think it could have used more Eris.
Right. Alrighty, everybody, that is our show. Shout outs, we'll start with Bill Bunny.
Oh, goodness, no, come back to me. I got thrown into this. I didn't prepare a shout out. Hold on.
Every week.
Somebody else go.
You're on the spot.
I'm on the spot? Oh, you get. No! I refuse. Come back to me.
That's awesome.
Agrios.
Happy birthday, Shark's wife.
Yes, happy birthday, Gurufu. Jez.
Congratulations to Jerkcast for having several episodes. Keep going.
Yay.
Right? That Jerkcast is funny. And you know what? Like, I want to thank them right now. I want to thank them right now for not ever having invited me into that chat. Like I saw a bunch of times that, you know, people were talking about this and they said, oh, well, you can't just come into this. You have to be invited in. And that means that they don't think I'm a jerk, or at least they don't think I'm jerk enough to be invited into that. And that makes me feel really good. So, Jerkcast, I appreciate that for just not being on your radar. I feel awesome. I feel really awesome.
Hey, I'm in Jerkcast I'm in the Jerk channel and I haven't been invited.
Oh, yeah? Well, you're just cool like that, Jess. That's all that is. Crimson Warlock.
I'm just gonna shout out to our audience who keeps coming in every week. It's great to be able to have some people that are here chatting with us, and we can chat back with them. And shout out to Sharks, because he's played a lot with me, and he's awesome. And happy birthday to his wife as well.
Awesome. Bell Bunny.
Okay. So I have two, if that's okay. One, I need to give a shout out to SDF River because he gave me a shout out 2 weeks in a row, and he's not here, so shout out to you. You're awesome. And also, my buddy Al Drinkwater, he's from the UK, so he's one of those Brits. But he started a really cool clan, because I know I don't know if you guys have a lot of like UK or European people that you play with, but there's a huge time zone issue. So it's really hard to play with them sometimes. So he started this really cool clan. It's up on Bungie, and it's the Templar Paladins, I think. And it's just for like UK and European people so that you can actually play with people. And I promised him I'd try to get him a shout out somewhere. So I did it. Mission accomplished.
There it is. Awesome. Very, very cool. I would like to shout out to my family, my sweet girl Flounder. Very good to me. I would also like to shout out to my son Trevor, and also to my daughter Lucy, because if it was not for them and the diapers and everything that was involved in this, I would seriously 100% have like carpal tunnel in both of my hands, because I would play Destiny that much. And without them in my life, that would be me right now. I would be like crippled. Like my hands would be just these gnarled, worthless things. And then I would never be able to play Destiny again, because this is a marathon and not a sprint. So shout out to them.
I feel like our stuff's always so like not as deep as yours.
Well, like you said, you're on the spot.
That's true.
All right. So I would like to thank everyone listening for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to feedback@guardian1.net, and we will see you next week.